Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Get the Shot, brought to you by Tamron Australia. My name's Joe and I'm the host. Today with me I've got Brian Ellwood, award-winning photographer, wildlife, landscapes, macro, anything you can think of photography related, Brian has done and can do. I'm super looking forward to this chat. Brian, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
No worries.
I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Of course. I like what you're up to at the moment. You sent me your website and you've recently updated it with a bunch of panoramas. So what got you interested in panoramas?
Oh, panoramas, I've always loved them. I think just going back to Ken Duncan's early days, that when I was young, those were the images that really captivated me. And so I thought, I'd really love to be able to do that. So I'm fairly passionate about it and just trying to capture. Somehow it captures more than just, here's this scene. You can capture the emotion and the feeling. And for me, it's about trying to get more than just a snap.
Yeah.
It's about really trying to capture something and capture what I'm feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And some of that is there on the spot, some of that's post, but it's really trying to bring that out.
I want to break it down a little bit on how you actually capture a panorama, because I'm sure a lot of people think they just flip to the panorama option on their phone and just pan across and that gets a photo, but it's not quite the case in how you do
not
it.
Quite the
Do you want to
case.
break down?
Well, there's two main ways you can do it. One is you take a big wide image and then you crop it down. My preferred way, and it allows you to zoom in more, is to do them as portrait images right across. So you sort of do a third overlap as you go around the panorama, and then you blend them and stitch them in Photoshop or Lightroom afterwards.
Is that a tricky process, the editing?
Not really, as long as you've set the shot up properly in the first place. Then it takes time and it takes patience, and you've got to know what you're working with. But it's not that hard. Mostly the software does most of it for you. So.
Yeah, nice. I've seen with some of them, there's one where there's like a storm on one side and a house on the other, and it sort of looks like the storm's coming. So that's interesting because it looks like the lighting conditions could have changed massively with where the storm was. So is it tricky with the light?
Well, that particular, you're talking about the old stone cottage on the hill. That particular shot, I think there's about 15, 20 images in that shot.
Okay.
And I took that handheld because I didn't have time to get the tripod out of the car. I just jumped and shot it. And it was, you have to move fairly quickly because it was changing, it was evolving really rapidly. And you can in that shot you can see there's a lot of still sunlight in the foreground and on the cottage, but then on the mountains behind there's this massive storm rolling in, and it was just like I was driving along and went, oh my God, got to stop, get this.
I was going to ask, how do you find your locations or subjects to take?
Sometimes it's by chance, like that. I was driving back down from Tumut. That's at Adelong. I was driving back down from Tumut, watching this huge storm rolling in, and I came round the corner, and that scene was just before me, and it was like, and there was somewhere I could pull off, and just jumped out and took the shot. Get the shot.
Nice, good plug. I appreciate it.
But it was. Other times, though, I'll just be out and about. I'll go on a drive or a scoping thing and just start looking, and I'll go, I really like this location. It's not the right time. A lot of my Tasmania shots, I had the ability to do that because we were staying down there for 5 months, and so there's a number of shots there that I just scoped out the location and went, that's going to be good. I've just got to get the right light, and one day I went out. There's one called Lewisham Light, and I went out just to go to the grocery store and get some milk and eggs or something. But always have the camera in the car, and as soon as I was heading out, I went, "Oh, the light's doing something magic. I'm going down there," and I got this beautiful series of shots from doing that.
Are you more into like the thrill of the hunt, or do you sort of like the final?
Yeah, there's a real buzz from finding a location and finding the right situation, or when the light comes together, and I get really pumped, and it's like, oh my god, I talk to myself like all the time, and and that's a huge buzz, and then I can't wait to get home, get it on the computer and start editing.
You like editing?
Yeah, I do like editing. I love the process, and especially if I'm pretty sure I've got a good shot there, and when it comes together of what I've seen or what I want.
I know with some, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I know with some of your images, you've put like overlays on, and you showed me one the other day that looked like it was almost like a painting sort of filter. So, do you spend time in the edit testing those things, or how does that stuff come about for you?
I don't do a lot of overlays or painterly effects or whatever, but some images I get them and I go, oh, there's something else I can do with this. So I'll take it into Photoshop and just play around until I get something that I think is working. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I think the one you looked at was a bushfire one, bushfire scene, and the effect I put on that actually brought out the fire feel in the image. So
those bushfire photos were phenomenal.
Thank you.
The color that you managed to pull out, and you did a few panos as well with them.
Yeah.
What made you want to take photos of in that environment?
I'm a country boy. Grew up on big properties, New South Wales, and spent a lot of time around bushfire affected areas and so forth. But I think that set in particular got me because in September last year, my wife and I had been up to Corryong, and on the way back we stopped in a little place called Boggy Creek Trestle Bridge, and discovered this amazing old 100-year-old railway bridge in the bush, and it just looked incredible, and took all these photos of it. And in the bushfires in January this year, so only 4 months later, it was completely destroyed, as were 13 of the 16 bridges on that Corryong line, or Cudgewell, Albury to Cudgewell line. And I was so moved by that, and the fact that the impact that fire has. So, and I just wanted to go back and shoot it. And I was going to Thredbo in February, so I went back only 3 or 4 weeks after the fires, and managed to go back and shoot through that area. And the big pano you're talking about was, I was driving and just came around this corner, and this just unfolded before me. And it was late in the afternoon, so there was all this early golden hour light sort of hitting these burnt trees, and it was it just fell into place. So, and I think I really wanted to document some of that, the impact, because there was 400,000 square kilometres of country, hectares of country that were burnt in those fires in January.
Yeah, there was a map I saw at one point earlier in the year that was like at least half of Victoria was.
Yeah, and that impact is massive, you know. And part of it for me too is also documenting. Okay, this is the impact of climate change. Yes, we've always had bushfires, but not at the rate we have now. Not to the impact that we have now, you know. So it's really important that we capture that. So I suppose part of it for me is that being able to find those spots and capture it and tell that story somehow, you know.
You've done lots of landscapes. Was it the same sort of thing growing up in the country, just big landscapes? That's what inspired you?
I've always, I can see myself doing it now. I've always looked to the distance. When we're on properties, I always needed to look out. Wherever we've lived, I've needed to be able to see out and look to the distance. So I think there's always been something there of being able to see space and being on properties. And I started photography in my teens when Mum and Dad bought me a Kodak Instamatic, you know, the old 1.2C. You might did not know about them, but it had a film cartridge in it, and I'd take my photos, and then you'd send them off and get your photos back eventually, and I just always was trying to capture something there, you know. And I looked back on some of those not that long ago and went, oh look, I was using leading lines, I was doing all these sorts of things automatically. The photos were crap, they were nothing exciting, but it was like, oh, there was techniques there that I didn't even know I was picking up on.
Is technique a big thing for you? I asked that because looking at your website and your photos, there's quite a lot of lines, especially your award-winning photo. I've got it written down, Menindee, am I saying that right?
Yeah, it's
Menindee water?
Menindee water's planted is the image.
So of course everyone's seeing it on screen now as they're watching this pod, but like straight lines and the iconic diagonal.
Yeah. There's something there for me with geometry and I don't tend to go with the rules. One thing, and this really stood out to me in Tasmania, there was one particular day I was down on a beach, and it was this stunning location, and I was trying to get this shot that I had in my head and trying to follow all the rules. I didn't realise this at the time, but and it wasn't coming together, and I just walked away for a while and stood on the beach and just took in the scene and went, what am I doing? And it's like, I'm trying to get it right. Stop. And I just immersed myself in where I was and came back and shot it again, and with a completely different approach and feel. So technique's important, but for me it's about trying to capture what I feel, and if I'm trying too hard, I don't get the feel.
I completely agree. I was focusing so hard on, like, especially when it came to video editing. I think videography, which is my background, is about 70% editing. Learning actually how to shoot and getting shots for your edit, that's actually simple as, but once you're there on Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, that's where the story actually comes together. And so I focus a lot on that, but I'm like, what's natural? Like, what can I do here? Where's a mini pocket of a story amongst this big story?
Exactly.
What 3 shots can actually tell a beginning, middle, and end? You know, the waiter grabs the champagne glass, pours one, and then hands it to the attendee. Anyway,
but it is. I mean, but you've got to have. For me, I've got to be able to stop and. I think like my business name is Brian Ellwood Moments, right? So, and the moments is very deliberate because it's about trying to capture a moment, which can be a cliche in photography, but I'm trying to capture what I'm feeling at that moment. For me, like some of the backstory over the last few years this has been a really healing process for me. I came out of a very, very stressful corporate career in events and technical production, and so I get the video, I get all that, and then had to leave that for medical reasons, and so being able to now stop and really connect and do what I love and do what I'm passionate about has been just amazing, and have the time to do it has been phenomenal. And I think some of that comes out in what I do.
What advice would you have, because I'm sure there's plenty of people like you who feel stuck, whether it's in their job, whether it's the circumstance they're in. What advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue something creative, photography or otherwise, but feels a bit stuck?
You've got to trust yourself. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that at all. But you've got to find a way to go. Okay, this is what I love. Now, I've always had a camera in my hand, for work or for whatever. But it took me a long time to come to the point of being able to say I'm a photographer. One thing to say it, the other is to really believe it. But that's a long process. You've just got to keep stepping out and trying something and allowing yourself to be creative, and not worry about how many times you stuff it up or get it wrong. And that's been really important for me, because I've always been a perfectionist. I try to get everything right. So to then go, I can just experiment and it doesn't matter, is sort of counterintuitive, But it's good. It's what you need to do in order to be creative.
Awesome. We've talked a bit about panoramas. You also, on your website, quite distinctly have a section about squares. What about the square aspect ratio fascinates you?
That's a good question. Square formats bring out something different. I don't particularly like square formats for a big landscape. I find it doesn't work. But if like there's one that's looking down a rock cliff face at the water below, and I went with square with that because it really brought you into. You've got two important things. One is the cliff face, the other is the water, the waves and the seaweed and everything down below, the kelp below. So I think it just gives you another tool to focus in a different way on something different. The one you mentioned before, the big Australian Photographic Prize winner, that was the only way I could do that shot was square, and that was from the minute I saw that paddock from the helicopter. It was like I knew what the shot had to be.
So tell me the whole story about that photo, because I think it's absolutely incredible.
Well, I wish I could get up in helicopters more, but my budget doesn't allow.
Same.
We were in a helicopter flying over Menindee Lakes. Menindee Lakes were full at the time, so we're talking, this is 2021. So there'd been heavy rains and the lakes were full, but all the farmland, it's basically red desert and with patches of irrigated farmland. So we were flying over, and there was thousands of pelicans on the lakes as well. So we'd been flying over, shooting the pelicans and what have you, and then swinging back. We flew over this section of irrigated ground, and I said, can we go back over there? Because it was just like there were these distinct geometric patterns, and the whole image, well, not the whole photo, but the whole space is a big circular irrigator.
You can see that a little bit,
Yeah, and so this is just a section of one quadrant of that area, and there were different sections of it were at different levels. Some were still fallow, some were replanted, some were different things. And I've got to get this somehow, and anyway, I got it. Yeah. And I thought, really think I've got something good there, and that's probably about version 20 of the shot.
Really?
Yeah, because I'd work on it and then I'd think, no, it's not quite right. I need to come back to the. So I kept going back to the raw files and starting again.
When do you, oh wait, so you go all the way back to raw files?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, if I'm not happy with where I've got to, I'll go, no, just gonna start again, trash it, go right back to raw and go from scratch again.
When do you know when you're editing to stop and be like, this is the final image?
That's always a good question too, because you can keep tweaking.
Yeah.
And one of the tricks is if you keep tweaking, you then lose it.
Yeah.
But I think somehow there's this something I nearly always know. It's like, okay, that's good. I'm done now.
Yeah.
And I can leave it
That
there.
intuitive feeling.
Yeah. There's just some, and I know, like, I watch a lot of art programs and painting and what have you, and you hear artists all the time saying, yeah, it's told me stop, or something along those lines, and it's sort of the same. I haven't really articulated that before, but
that's all right.
that is sort of what happens. It's like I'll be working on it and go, no, I'm happy
But
now.
it's not a decision you make per se, it's more something that comes to you that just says...
Sometimes it's a decision. Sometimes it's like, no, you've got to stop playing now.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes the image will come together really quickly. There's one image on the website called Tranquil Twilight, which is taken up in Brisbane at Brighton, looking out over the South Pine River. There's a big bridge on one side, and the old pylons of the old Hornibrook Highway bridge in front of me, and I went down there that particular night to try and get a sunset, because I thought, sunset over the mudflats, and there's this one mangrove tree and what have you, and I thought, yeah, it's worth a try. The sunset was nothing really, and there were a whole pile of other photographers around, and they all packed up and left, and I went, no, I'm just going to stay. I'm just going to wait. And quite a while after sunset, right at the tail end of twilight, there was this flash of colour came up through the sky, all these purples and oranges. And I did a quick pano, and then bolted home. Couldn't even stop and cook dinner because I had to look at this shot and edited it up. And I think the version that's on the website was the one I edited that night.
Really?
Yeah. It was just like, I think I've done a couple of minor little tweaks to it, but yeah. So it just depends on the...
Yeah. Is your creative energy constantly like that? Do you always have these highs where you just need to keep going, skip making dinner, keep editing? Or do you sort of like take time with other images?
It varies. And as you said before, I've done some updates to the website, and that's been good because the last few months have been really busy with a whole pile of other things, family stuff and all these other things getting in the way. And you sort of lose your mojo a bit.
Yeah.
And so actually coming back and really putting some focused effort in, you get the excitement back, and you get that feel back for what you're doing. And I've just had a ball the last couple of days, just sort of really getting back in and doing that. But the question was about the creative energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that, and like sometimes I'll get up for a dawn shoot somewhere, and it's coming together, and I'm just on a high. And other days it's like, it's not doing much for me today. Whatever, So it just depends on the day and the situation. And
Absolutely.
sometimes on those whatever days, it's like, yeah, but I'll come back here at another time.
Parts of your website also have African landscapes, African wildlife. Where did the love for travel come from?
can probably blame National Geographic for that.
How terrible! How dare they?
And I think National Geographic were a big influence on me in terms of just the images they provided of this whole other world, and David Attenborough, of course.
Yeah.
And the camera work that was done by him and his team were just unbelievable, and he kept pushing the boundaries. But I think I've always had a dream of going to Africa and photographing the wildlife. And in 2019, I was catching up with a friend from Canberra, and I said, "Where's your next trip?" And he said, "I'm going to Africa." And he said, "Why don't you come?" And I went, "I can't do that." And his wife and my wife, Lee, went, "Yeah, no, you're doing that." so I went, and it was just the best trip. It was really transformative for me, actually, to go and actually be there in the place that I dreamed about for so long. It was Namibia. I hadn't specifically dreamed about Namibia, but that's where the trip was going. And we went there, and the first night we got to Etosha. We were staying in a lodge in Etosha in a private game reserve as opposed to a national park. And they said, "Oh, come on, we're going for a sundowners safari." And I said, "I am just utterly shattered." We'd flown in the night before and then driven however many 100 k's up through Namibia to Etosha, and I said, I'll come on the dawn shoot. I'm too wrecked. And somebody turned around to me and said, "You've come all this way for one thing. Let's go do it."
Yep.
And I did, and we went out and found this herd of elephants, and I'm sitting in the back of the four-wheel drive, and the shot is on the website, and it's called First Contact. And this beautiful old female elephant came up behind a tree just over there and just quietly stared at me through the tree. And it was almost dark, so I was pushing everything to the max to try and get the shot. And I came home, looked at the shot and went, if I don't get another shot on this trip, I'm happy with that one.
Wow. And the first night?
The first night. The night I wasn't going to go out on. And we sat there with the elephant herd for ages. We were supposed to have drinks and nibbles and what have you. We didn't.
Incredible.
We were just shooting. And
I find it interesting, and I've only sort of realised this now, but speaking to all these photographers and creators, some of their favourite pieces come from the random moments that they didn't expect.
Yep.
And I guess, broadly speaking, why do you think that is? It's a tricky question, and I don't know the answer myself.
It's a very tricky question. I haven't thought of it, but I am aware that is a thing. I think it's sometimes it's just putting yourself out into a location, and then the rest sort of happens. Sometimes, I don't know, it's just like you're meant to get the shot.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, it's just amazing.
I think there's a component of control. We have control over our settings, we have control over the equipment, but we don't really have control over the environment.
No. Especially when you're dealing with wildlife.
Yeah.
Because it can be so frustrating. And you can think everything's right, I should be able to get this, and you can hear the bird, or and you just can't get a clear shot. But then other times like that, it just comes together. And there's I think the thing for me that time in Etosha, especially with the elephants, was just amazing.
Yeah.
It's just I've always had this deep connection somehow with elephants, and to be there and just see how they interacted with each other, because they're wild elephants. They're not tame. Or the beauty of that park that we were in is that they only let 3 vehicles out in the park at any given time, and they're their own vehicles. So the animals aren't like you see in Kenya. Sometimes there's like 30 4-wheel drives around a lion or whatever. That they're not in that situation, so they're not stressed and they're not.
My closest comparison to this is I was scuba diving in the Maldives, and we were near the coral, and these manta rays started swimming over, and some of these were like 2.5, 3 meters like wide and stuff like that. Really amazing. And they actually like swimming above and near scuba divers because the bubbles actually feels nice on their bellies, like a jacuzzi.
That's so cool.
And there was one moment where a manta ray went right over me, just dark and stuff like that, and I sort of held my breath a little bit, which is what you should not do while scuba diving at all. You have to stay breathing constantly. But I was just mesmerized by it all, and time just slowed and froze for a moment in that dark little spot in this manta ray shadow. And I was just there. I didn't have my GoPro on me at the time, but
there's
a connection with animals that
there is a connection. And I showed you a book there before of which I put together of my first exhibition, which was called Moments of Pause.
Yep.
And there's quite a lot of animals in that, and there's this beautiful big shot of this female elephant as on the front cover, and she was the main feature when you walked into the exhibition. But the connection of just being able to stop and be with a wild animal, especially something that size, or like those 2 cheetahs that are in there as well.
Yeah.
And to be that close to them, and to be able to look into their eyes and connect, and there is a connection.
Yeah.
You know, I cannot. I've never been able to grasp how somebody can look at an animal and not understand that they think and they feel and they connect. You know?
Absolutely.
And there was another story about the elephants. There's one female. We were in a hide on a waterhole, and it's 2-story hide. So most of the people were downstairs getting sort of water level shots, and I'd gone upstairs in this hide. And this female elephant had finished drinking, and she came up and she walked straight up to me, and was literally from me to your way on the other side of the hide. And she picked up a trunk, and her trunk was like right in my face. And she was just sniffing, connecting, because they've got millions of sensors in their trunks. And she was just connecting with me, and she just stood there and turned her eye and just stared at me. And I just put my camera down, stopped shooting.
Wow.
And I just wanted to be there in that minute with her, and it was just, it makes me emotional now. And it did then. I was really choked up afterwards. It's like something really special just happened then.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but do you know the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
I know it, I haven't seen it.
Okay, can I spoil something in it for you?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, Sean Penn's character is this photographer that Ben Stiller's been trying to find, and eventually they find him in the Himalayas, and he's there with his photography set up, and he's looking into the distance, and a snow leopard appears, and it just walks down. And it's like, I've been waiting for this moment. And he looks, but doesn't actually take the photo, because he actually just decides to be present in that moment, seeing this beautiful animal and connecting there.
Yeah.
And I never had a moment like that when trying to take a photo or a video, or even with an animal just like that. but as I've gotten older, I'm only 26, and not even that much older, but I don't know. As time has gone on, I have connected to that scene more and more, and it's what it means. And
but those two elephant scenarios are the two versions of that for me. I did get the shot in both instances.
Awesome.
But that just being able to, sometimes you just got to go, no, I'm just here. The flip side of it is too that I have often have people say, oh, why don't you just put your camera down and enjoy the scene? And it's like, for me, this is my enjoyment. I see so much more by stopping and thinking about the image I want to capture and what have you. And also, like, if I walk through the bush with somebody who isn't a photographer, it always staggers me how little they see, or all the stuff they miss. You know, and I've had so often I've had people stop. You know, I'll be taking a photo of something, and somebody will stop and go, "What are you photographing?" It's like, "Oh, this." I go, "Oh yeah." They don't see it, you know.
Fantastic.
But it's. I think. I know a lot of photographers talk about you always look at life through a photography lens perspective. And I think it's really true, because I'll walk out the door and go, look at the light, look at the colour, you know, oh, look at that.
Do you have any controversial photography opinions or any hot takes?
Not really a controversial person.
Okay.
No, I think the main thing for me is just don't be bound by the rules. There are so many rules that you can put on yourself with photography, and I love just experimenting and breaking them and see what it does. Sometimes it's crap, but sometimes it works.
No, I respect that.
And you know, like, I've played with intentional camera movement and stuff like that, and some of the shots are like, yeah, that's cool. Some of the shots are like, yeah, no, that doesn't work.
The one time I tested intentional camera movement was in 2018. There was a super blue blood moon, and so in the sky, right before the blood moon, the moon was shining really, really bright, and so long exposure, if you move your camera around, it creates looks like a texture on like a black background. And I tried like doing letters and stuff like that, and I thought it was really cool that these letters were created with the moon in a position that only occurs once every 7,000 years or something like that. They're all crap, they're all terrible, but it was fun to test.
It's fun to test. Well, the other thing is too, I have trouble culling.
Really? Okay.
I have real trouble culling. It's fine. Look, if the shot's out of focus, if it's whatever, I'll go through and I'll get rid of the obvious dead shots. But the number of times, like Africa, I'll go back and look at my Africa archive and go, oh, I hadn't seen that. Or I look at it with a different perspective now and go, oh, now I can see a different shot within that shot that I took then and I never saw before.
Yeah, reflecting on your archive is so underrated. I think people need to do it absolutely more and more.
Yeah, and there's a shot hanging on the wall at our front door at the moment that is exactly that, and it's a elephant calf standing in between its mum's legs and in the waterhole, and he's just protected by mum, and the bigger shot, his slightly older siblings and the other, his aunties, are all around him, and they cluster around and protect the calf, and he's just standing there literally under mum's belly.
That's beautiful.
And I didn't see the shot when I took it. I didn't see it when I was doing the first run through the edits, and I went back in preparation for the exhibition. I went, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at this shot. And I just love it. It's one of my favourite shots. So yeah, the other thing I was going to say in that was like, there's also, I was looking through some of the bushfire shots today, and there was one I came across where I must have bumped the shutter as I was putting the camera down, and I've got this amazing intentional camera movement shot, unintentional camera movement shot, it's of this. You can't see the house, but there's a house that's been burnt down, is what I was photographing, and two chimneys and all of the burnt trees around it, and the light coming down through the trees.
Interesting.
And I've just pulled the camera down like this, and as
Does it arc?
it doesn't arc. It's fairly straight, but it's on like looking at the screen. It's on that diagonal.
Interesting.
And I haven't done anything. I've done a really rough edit on it, and I thought, I might get something out of that.
I'm keen to see it.
Yeah.
I'll refresh my inbox in anticipation. Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes.
The way we like to wrap up the podcast is we have the previous guest leave a question for you. You don't really know who they are.
Oh.
And you don't, all that. And so the question for you today is, specifically for photography, who would you take with you, and what destination would you choose if you could go anywhere in the world?
Ooh.
Money and fuel is not a problem.
Fuel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world. My problem is I want to go everywhere. I think the big place I would love to go is South America, especially Patagonia, to go and shoot in that area, I think would be amazing, or the Antarctic.
Yeah.
So they'd be pretty high up there, but there are just so many places I want to go, and I'm never going to get to all of them.
You also have to take someone with you.
Take someone with me.
Would you take a different person to Patagonia than to Antarctica?
No. Well, I think the person, we're talking a photography trip here, so
it could be you as the photographer, and you could just have someone as company. Look, you can answer however you want, but you're bringing someone to a destination specifically for photography. So maybe it is photography related.
Then it'd be my mate Phil.
Okay, yeah.
Who was the guy I went to Africa with.
Oh, beautiful.
And we've travelled a lot, and we're going to Tassie in a couple of months.
Awesome.
We've travelled a lot together, and he's a really good mate. And we've taken so many photos, and he's a mad bird photographer.
Oh yeah.
But unbelievable bird photographer.
Shout out Phil.
So it'd be Phil if we're talking photography.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Well, Brian, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. I've known about you for a while. People have always said lovely things, and everything they've said is completely true. You're the best. And can't wait to see what you get up to.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been good to be here.
No, you're very welcome.
And we didn't talk about some of the macros that I've been testing out some Tamron lenses on. So we can do that another time.
Another time. Good job. You know your stuff. In case I can't host, I'll bring you in. Yeah.
Okay. All good.
All right. If you want to find out what Brian asks the next guest, tune in next week to find out. Thank you for watching. See you then.